Hi guys. Well, the last thing God told me happened Monday, March 14th, 2022. Exactly 2 months ago now to the day. It's now May 14th. But back then, March 14th, that morning I got online, and there on my desktop computer's home screen was a news article entitled, "Influencers Get Raging Response from Restaurant After Asking for Free Food." Guys, at that very moment, the words of the prophet who called me out back in 1983, when I was 12 years old, flashed across my mind. For God is going to place you in a position one day to be able to influence multitudes of people. Guys, I about fell out. Influencer. Have you heard this word lately? This is the word the world has coined just in the last 5 years to refer to someone on social media with a large following. They're now known as an influencer. So me, with my 210,000 subscribers here on YouTube, would be called an influencer. If a news article was written about me today, they'd say, "Influencer Gabriel Ansley Erb." Guys, this is the very word God spoke over me back in 1983. He prophesied my life, the position I'd be in, to the very word. God is going to place you in a position to be able to influence. What? Stunning. So I went on a search of this word, influencer, and I found out the word was just added to the dictionary in 2019. Merriam-Webster recently announced it has added the word influencer to the 2019 dictionary. Influencer has been a term mostly used these days as part of various industries involving social media to describe individuals with a large following. I found this graph on dictionary.com showing how the word only caught on in 2016. But really, it's only been in the last couple of years that you see it regularly now in news articles. I've seen it too. But it wasn't until March 14th of this year, 2022, that God opened my eyes to what He had prophesied about me all those years ago, back in 1983. Almost 40 years ago now. And realize, for the record, I wrote the prophet's words down back in 2008 on page 1 of my book, Undeniable Biblical Proof Jesus Christ Will Return to Planet Earth Exactly 2,000 Years After the Year of His Death. This book was registered with the Library of Congress back in 2009. They literally got a paperback copy of it back in 2009. I also made a testimony video of my life that I uploaded to YouTube in 2010, where I have the prophet's words written. And you can see here that video was uploaded to YouTube September 15th, 2010. Here, I'll play the part with the prophet's words for you. See it? One day God will place you in a position to be able to influence. Guys, I have never forgotten the prophet's words. I've told those words to people my whole life, ever since 1983. His words were permanently ingrained in my mind. I even said that back in 2017 in part 3 of my 10-part 2028 End video series. Part 3 was uploaded to YouTube November 6th, 2017. Here, I'll play that for you. This reminds me of an incredible encounter I had back in 1983 when I was just a young boy, 12 years old. I gotta tell you this story. My dad had seen an ad in the newspaper about a traveling prophet who was going to speak in a church that we had never been to. Dad was curious about what a prophet was today. You have to understand, our family, we'd only been going to church for 2 years at this time, so we didn't know much. Well, we went, and near the end of the prophet's message that night, he walked back the center aisle, he pointed at me, and he said, "Stand up, son. Do you know God gave you your name? For it is Gabriel." Well, he had my attention with that. I was thinking, how does he know my name? And he continued, "Son, God's placed the creativity of 4 men inside of you. And you will be like John the Baptist in the last days, preparing the people to meet the Lord. For God's going to place you in a position one day to be able to influence multitudes of people." Well, I sat down, bewildered. My head was spinning. I'm actually amazed I've never forgotten the words he spoke over me. It's like they were permanently ingrained in my mind. I mean, think about it. I was only 12. I never wrote them down, and yet I've never forgotten what he said. And I never tried to self-fulfill the words. I just lived my life. I finished high school. I went to college majoring in chemistry and biochemistry. I wanted to be a doctor. And then in my mid-20s, of all things, I decided to move to Nashville to be a country music singer. Crazy. So as you can see, I wasn't trying to make the prophet's words be true in my life. Well, there you go, guys. And by the way, I used to wonder through the years, why the cryptic words? God's gonna place you in a position one day to be able to influence. What? Why not just say what it is? You're going to be a preacher who saves many. You're going to be an evangelist who ministers to many. Why the vague, a position to influence? Well, now I know. Because the position didn't even exist back in 1983. There was no internet. There was no social media. There was no smartphones. Yet with those words, God was not vague. He had prophesied my life perfectly accurate. For now today, the position God was going to put me in is called an influencer. Guys, this is remarkable. It's stunning. And yet it's exactly like the God of the Bible. For he often prophesies things to the very word. In my 2028 End video series, I told you in day 3 of creation, he said he gathered the waters together and the dry land appeared, which foretold of the biggest event to occur Earth's 3rd millennium, which was the parting of the Red Sea. And when that event happened, God said with the breath of his nostrils, the waters were gathered together, and the Israelites went across on dry land. See, God prophesied this event to the very words in the creation story. In day 4 of creation, he said he created the greater and lesser lights. What? Why not the sun and the moon? Because when John the Baptist and Jesus came along during Earth's 4th millennium, God referred to them both as lights, and that Jesus was greater than John. John said, "He must become greater, I must become less." Jesus said, "You were willing to rejoice in John's light, but I have a greater witness than John's." See it? God prophesies things to the very word. And so God, prophesying through that prophet back in 1983, prophesied my life to the very word. The position I'm in is an influencer. Guess where the church was located? It was on a mountaintop. It's called Chickies Rock, located in Lancaster County. I was born and raised in a town called Mount Joy, but this church that we had never been to was near a town called Columbia, and it sat on the very top of a mount called Chickies Rock. Guys, do you remember in the Bible, God often met with his prophets on mountaintops? Abraham on Mount Moriah, Moses on Mount Sinai, Elijah on Mount Horeb, Jesus on Mount of Transfiguration, and on and on. So why did God meet with me that night back in 1983 in a church that was located on a mountaintop? Why was that where the traveling prophet was speaking that night? Something to think about. For truly he has placed me in a position to be able to influence a multitude of people. And I pray you're one of them. Blessings to you and yours.